Hello everyone, welcome to this third part of this hot knife cutter web server video. So in this part of the video, we will go ahead and dive deeper into the code, and I will show you how to go ahead and configure that. So the first thing you want to do is you want to open up the code by going up to the folder over here for the hot knife web server. Final, that's the folder that you want to open, and then you want to open this file here in the middle. Ignore this other programs here, just this one here in the middle. So click that, open that, and once you open that, you'll be greeted with this first tab here, which has a description of the program. You can edit this, you can change this. It's just a comment, it won't affect your program. In this first tab here, the blue tab here, this is where your main code is. There'll be some parts of this code here that you can ignore, and there'll be some parts of the code here that are really important that you can change. The parts that you can ignore, I'm not saying that they're unimportant. Mostly they're there for diagnostic purposes, and also they're also there because you still, at this point in time, understand very little about this code and HTML and C, and so you may not want to touch that. You may not want to mess with that right now at this point in time. You'd definitely want to mess with it later on when you once you understand this code a whole lot better. But right now, you'd want to leave this program just the way it is, and just adjust and change things that you, just a few things here and there, just as you begin to learn how to manage this the web control interface. So as it starts with some typical C code, then goes into HTML. So in the typical C code part here, we have some undefined here, some includes. Again, this is not really important at this time, right? This is an important part here, whereby you have the SSID for your network here. You want to change that to be the SSID for your network. Make sure that is put there. And then if you have a password, yes, you do the necessary right over here. Um, Again, and over here, you can decide what pins you want to use on your board. In this case here, the pins that I wanted to use were 5, 6, 7, 8, which are close to each other, and I'll show you exactly where they are on the board. I added this diagram over here, which shows you the pins, and the pin numbers are actually in black over here. As you can see, these two columns of pins represent these two columns of pins of this side here. Likewise, these two columns of pins represent these two columns of pins here. So it actually has a lot of pins. That you can see up to about 40 pins. That's kind of crazy, right? So anyway, so I've decided to use pin 5, 6, 7, and 8 here. You can use different pins, but in uh, 5, 6, 7, 8 are the ones that I used in my case here. So yes, you can refer to this chart here, and yeah, it's a very helpful chart. So we go back to the code, and as we can see over here, we have temperature pin 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? Again, 3 of these pins here we will use for temperature control. One of them will be just using it for turning the knife on and off. Okay, so um, the serial print stuff you can ignore. Anything that says serial is not really that important. It's mainly diagnostic information. In fact, I even commented out the starting of the serial server. There's a place here where I start the serial server. I just commented it out because it was just not important, right? So you can ignore the serial parts here, like starting web server. It's just printing out stuff to the serial console so you can see what's happening. Um, but in this case here, it's not that important at this point in time. So now we go over to the HTML part here, right? So this is as we start off, we'll be looking at most of this code here refers to the user interface. So the user interface design, like for example, you can see here, this is HTML title over here saying hot knife cutter interface, and that's this title right over here at the top. So you can change that; it'll change what's here. So likewise, just in the page here, you'll see welcome to the Hot Knives Cutter web server. It's this text here, so if you change that, likewise, that'll change. So we have some buttons here that have been initialized, some HTML buttons here. So this is the first button, the second button. That's this button here and this button over here. As you can see, we've initialized the text on the button, right? And at the same time, we have also attached a letter reference saying that if it's H, then it'll activate this button. If it's stroke L, it'll activate this button here. So what happens basically is that remember that that IP address that I told you to take a picture of at the beginning, yes, that IP address is this IP address right over here. So if you go to that IP address just like that without any letters or any slash letters in front, at the end of it, it'll take you just to the default web page right here. And if you click this here, it'll just tell you what status the device was in previously. And these statuses will stay until you change them. The statuses, the way they're programmed over here is that definitely you can't have two states, two temperature settings active at one time. It'll always be one or the other. But currently the hot knife is off, so these temperature settings don't matter. So in this case here, so let's go back to the code. So we put in this space over here with a /p, as you can see over here, and then we start out with temperature settings, and then again we initialize. So I just copy and pasted these buttons over here, and I just changed the titles of the buttons, like first temperature setting, second temperature setting, as you can see over here, right? So we have these buttons all set up. So these are the buttons. They're all set up over here. They're all clicky buttons right over here, and this is the code, the HTML code to initialize that part of the interface. So as we scroll further down, we come over here to the text, the status text, right? So if you press any of these buttons here, it automatically updates this text here by turning it either red or just leaving it black. So we have some if statements here that we use to control that. So we say, for example, if the temperature condition, again, remember this temperature condition was a variable that I said changes, right? If it detects that this temperature condition is equal to 1, then it prints that, yes, this temperature setting is active. So temperature setting 1 is active, and it'll be in red, just like it is over here. And if not, it'll remain black and say the text will change to is not active, like for example, as you can see over here. So the text, as you can see for these conditions or these temperature settings, is currently by default not active. But if it detects if this temperature condition is either 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, then it'll do the necessary and it'll respond as per the code that we've put here, as per these if-else statements. So moving on. So you're probably wondering, okay, so how does that temperature condition change, right? How does the temperature condition change to 7, 6, so that this if statements can operate on based on that those changing variables? Well, this is how it does it, right? So this is some buffer information here, which is pretty much the buffer contains the information of the IP address, and so we have some code here which observes the end of the buffer, which is remember I was telling you can use /h /l, like for example the knife being on, for example, if I press that, it is /h. It is /h. So /h is what is detected here by the web server here on the microcontroller. So it observes that because we've clicked this, and this is any web control, any device with a browser on the same network as the microcontroller. So the microcontroller is busy monitoring this IP address, and if it receives this and it observes that it's a H, then what it does is it allocates knife condition a value of 1. So if it allocates knife condition a value of 1, then it digital writes this LED high. So there's an LED over here that I just call simply LED, right? I haven't called it LED 1 or 2, anything, just simple LED, and it writes a high value to it. So it pretty much turns it on. So if this buffer ends with an L, right? So if I press this button here and detects an L at the end of that buffer, then it allocates a condition of a value of 2 to this knife condition variable. And so digital writes LED with a low value, so it turns it off. So as you've noticed now, or as you're beginning to notice, the key towards operating this microcontroller remotely is by changing the letter at the end of the buffer. As you can see here, we have a H, we have a L, we have a Q, and if you look at the rest of the code over here, we have introduced different letters like R, S, T, and we're doing different things. We're not just writing a value to an LED, because these LEDs are actually connected to pins themselves. So you can imagine these pins. So these LEDs are pretty much pins in themselves, right? So if that is the case, you can see over here we have a Q, so it detects a Q at the end of this buffer. So what it does is it allocates not the knife condition, but the temp condition to 1. And what does it do? It digital writes a temp pin high and temp pin 2 low and temp pin 3 low. So you can see it configures these three values, so these three pins, and these three pins control the relays that are used for controlling the temperature. So if it detects this, um, so if the relays are configured in this format, then automatically the relays are connected, or as we know, as you know, the relay is actually connected to the hot knife, and these relays, once they're set to high, low, low, it will configure a temperature setting, the lowest temperature setting, which is a temperature condition 1, and so on and so forth. And the theory behind this is explained in this diagram over here. Let me open this diagram. Temperature control connection and translation table over here. So it gives you kind of like a description of this, and it's also explained a little bit in the text about how the rotary switch uh, rotates, and it just makes or breaks connections between these three values, right? And creates different combinations as it does so. And those different combinations correspond to different temperature settings. So that's pretty much what happens, and that's what we're programming here. So again, if it detects an R, it does the same. It activates a configuration, a temperature setting configuration, like this. In this case here, it's low, high, low, and that's the second temperature condition. So it's the second temperature setting. So it's the second lowest temperature setting, or the a temperature setting higher than the lowest temperature setting, and it goes on so forth till the highest temperature setting, which is over here, whereby if it detects a W at the end of the buffer, and then all the pins will be set to high, and you have the highest temperature setting of the hot knife. So as you can see, you can actually go ahead, once you understand this, you can go ahead and change all this, and this number here, again, this number here corresponds to the temperature setting. If you had to place a 1 here instead of a 7, right, then pretty much the status text will be wrong. The status text will be wrong, but the temperature setting will still be high. But the status text will not correspond to it. You see, the temperature condition is what changes the status text, but the digital writing of the pins controls the relays and is what actually controls the temperature. Right. So if you want to, if you have to put this, if you have to change this temperature condition here and allocate a 1, right, in this code here, then what you'd have to do is you'd have to change this configuration setting to this configuration setting over here at the beginning, whereby um, you get the lowest, over here, where you get the lowest temperature setting. So high, low, low configuration. So that's what you'd have to do. So hopefully, I know I'm not really good at explaining this, but that's the reason why I wanted to really graphically display this and do a video so that you could really understand how this code functions. And I think you'd learn a lot by just playing around, just changing a few things here, sending the code to your CC3200, and then updating the web page, either by clicking this over here or by clicking the buttons. By the way, and clicking the buttons actually refreshes the web page, so you don't actually have to click this link over here to refresh and get the current status update on the device. And again, once you learn more about, or if you're really good at HTML programming, there's a whole lot more you can do with this page. You can make it look a whole lot fancier than it does look right now. And again, this is more stuff here that you can ignore just for now. It's not important. I've covered all the most important things here at the beginning. From the top here of this tab to the bottom, those are the most important parts here that I've described so far. So the red LED part here, or the red LED tab, is just some purely C code. It's very simple. All it does is it just turns uh, the hot knife on and off is all it does. So basically what it does is it operates on the knife condition. So if the knife condition is 1, So it takes this from this tab here. So that's the really cool thing about this multitasking program, is that it can take values and switch them. It can take values and transfer them between tabs, and both these two tabs here run simultaneously, doing their own thing. Right? So we have the knife condition from the first tab here. So if we detect a knife condition of 1, meaning that the hot knife is on, then it begins a loop or a cycle. It begins to cycle the not only just the LED, which is the light LED over here on the device, on the CC3200, but also the temperature. Sorry, not the temperature, but the pin for turning on the device, for turning on the hot knife. It cycles it on and off every 15 seconds, because what happens is it's actually a setting according to the operation manual that this device cannot stay on should not stay on for more than 15 seconds. So they advise you cycling it on and off every 15 seconds. So I can imagine you having to sit there with the hot knife, turning it on and off every 15 seconds. If you're good at timing, maybe you could do that, but then it's very tedious, right? It's the perfect task to be automated. And in this case here, we are automating it by using this code here. And so this pin here, that's all it does. Once it detects that there's a knife condition of 1, it goes ahead and just cycles it on and off, on and off, on and off. Is what it does every 15 seconds. So that is this C code here. So that's all it does. So hopefully this code, this little video here will have help to give you a general idea on how to operate this web controller interface. Otherwise, thank you very much.